actually be about investment, long term, handing it on to family or friends, not just selling it on vintage. And I'm a bit of an anomaly in terms of the pace at which I want the fairground to run. Of course we want to make sales, but it's okay if no one's got any newness. That was one thing that came out recently. A brand apologised to me because they didn't have any newness, and I was like, don't worry, that's exactly what we're here to hero. And then about the rate of customers shopping as well. So we plant a seed at the fairground, and then if they're ambitious enough to find it elsewhere at a better price, good for them. But we really want to storytell. So tonight, Sian and Frankie are going to tell us a bit more about their brand, so that actually you leave feeling like you've almost learned something about the brands. And if you go on to shop, that's even better. But what you do by shopping from brands like these is so important for the future of British design and women in business, and actually teaching kind of the next generations how, with your hard-earned money, you can actually really invest in kind of much better ways than perhaps not every brand, but those brands with the biggest spending power in terms of marketing will always seep into our consciousness. It's what they're excellent at. So you just sometimes have to put the blinkers on and find those hidden gems. So I've got a few questions, and then if anybody, I would love to know, Sian, for you first of all, 3 key moments in building your brand. And that might be career, it might be a life-changing moment, it might be...
So my career background is in buying, and I suppose in that role you always had people come to you and present their products, and I was often quite frustrated and thinking I want to be on the other side of the table. I suppose always having kind of like an entrepreneurial background of thinking, even when I was little, little market stores selling flowers and that kind of thing, that I just wanted that sort of freedom to be able to do something myself. And then I guess with the pyjamas, it was probably when I started going on holiday with my mum, but also my boyfriend and then my brother and his girlfriend, and we were kind of all together. And my mum at the time wanted pyjamas that she could feel okay in around the guys and not feel like she was revealing more, like not like a really see-through nighty or anything too, sheer. So that kind of sparked an idea. And then I guess probably the pivotal moment was actually when my mum died. We'd been working on patterns together and sort of coming up with, nothing too sexy, nothing too frumpy. We sort of thought about it, and I've got one precious picture of us sort of playing with patterns together. And it's kind of building on her legacy in a way. And she was always very much, fewer, better pieces at the time. She was always spend a little bit more. And that was her thing. So I think probably losing my mum, it sort of changes the perspective when you lose somebody. It's like, right, I'm going to do it now or never. I didn't want to ever look back and think, I didn't give it a go. I'd rather fail rather than...
Well, you're definitely succeeding, so you're doing her proud.
That was kind of the... I think I got, in the buying world, I just got a bit fed up of standing up.
Am I allowed to ask who you were buying for?
Well, I started at Selfridges, but
I always knew from about 2 years old that I wanted to do knitwear. That was my thing. I'm going to do knitwear design. I was always drawing ladies with stripy socks, stripy jumpers. I don't know where it comes from. My mum and dad were academics, but that's just what I did. And I can remember going on a school trip to the Cromer Museum, which is kind of like a museum of fishermen. And being really, really freaked out by these mannequins that had the fishermen's jumpers on them in these dark little, it was like a kind of reenactment of a fisherman's cottage. And it was, quite spooky. And I just felt like it was such a shame that these things were kind of consigned to a sort of dusty sort of museum corner. And there's so much craftsmanship in them, and there's people's stories and their lives and all the time that they put into them. And I think it's something that always kind of was in the back of my mind subconsciously. and I would come back to it at different times in my life and in my career thinking, oh, I think there's something in there, I think there's a story in there, I think there's, you know. And then I think actually after my children were born, my dad kept saying to me, when are you going to start your own business? And I thought, well, when I do it, it's got to be something that's meaningful to me. And it was the fisherman's story that really kind of gripped me, because I felt like there was such an important story to be told on so many levels that I could really get my teeth stuck into as a knitwear designer.
I was going to say, and where were you designing knitwear previously?
So I've always, I worked for Burberry and Benetton. When I graduated, I moved to Italy and worked out there for 5 years. I used to design the knitwear for Sisley, then I came back, worked for Burberry under Chadwyck-Healey.
I mean, these are the stories I love, because everyone knows those brands. And genuinely, I think it gives your brand extra clout when you say you come from John Lewis or Selfridges, you come from Burberry.
We know the business.
And you know that, and then it's, you know, I hope it becomes part of what you're investing in. Like, you can't just walk into knitwear.
You really can't.
You really have to know.
It's a minefield.
Yeah, it's like a, technology, isn't it?
It is a minefield, and there's so many things that can go wrong. I think it's like baking a cake. It's like things can go wrong. You don't know why. You know, it can just be a difference in colour, and all sorts of different things can go wrong. So it's a real skill to sort of.
I mean, you actually both of these brands were two of the biggest success stories of our first launch weekend in December. So I've now seen firsthand what resonates with the customer as well, and I think knitwear is really not saturated, but it's quite a noisy sector of the fashion market. So I think to be able to see it in the flesh, you're wearing the Bigby very well. I love that one. They are beautiful, but there is so much more that goes in than just a sketch, and I think that's what possibly we lose sight of when you just see everyone doing knitwear. I think because I shopped, for example, you really looked forward to your supermarket visit, then you kind of enjoyed the food more because it was more exclusive. And I think our things are more exclusive because you can't get them everywhere. I think the thing that I used to get quite frustrated with was when we used to do fittings, when I was working for more commercial brands, we'd have to come in at a certain price, and so you take the pockets off and make it a bit shorter and do this.
Such a shame.
And
that's
I just thought, I don't want to do that. I want it to be the right length and the right size and not cut corners on.
But also, Frankie, if you're now meeting the people that make your garments, that's the human connection which you probably naturally, it should feel fairer as well. I think so often if agents are involved and there's a number of points to getting to the initial source, it just becomes someone else's problem, and like, this is the price we want to pay. It doesn't matter what it actually does to the person at the start.
And I think you've got lots of middlemen, so you're not actually looking. This is the thing that I used to find difficult, is that the people that are pushing on the price aren't looking at the people that make it in the eye. And when you've got one of those pyjamas that cost £16 or whatever, I can remember children's baby grows for like £3 when my kids were. I'm thinking, someone is getting ripped off. And
your business, in your mind, kind of, you get up every day to focus on it, but it must bring you so much more than just, hopefully profit, pays your way, all that kind of thing.
I started it because I wanted it to be purpose driven from the core rather than like a bolt on. So I support disadvantaged women through the Luminary Bakery, so I give back to them financially.
Tell us about the Luminary Bakery.
So Luminary Bakery train women to bake in London, so women who've gone through some real tough stuff really, that don't necessarily have a support network, or they go to Luminary to learn to bake, but that's just like a route to independence. They don't necessarily go on to make, they use it for understanding money and mental health help. It's a whole sort of pulse wellness program. So I give back to them, and then I've given them pyjamas during the crisis, heating, what do you call it, crisis, and then use my fabric to make aprons for them, just various things to support them, because
how did you come across the Luminary?
I did like a campaign for their May Day appeal, because all of the fishermen were lifeboatmen as well, and the bravery of them. I mean, lifeboatmen now, and possibly even more than more than ever. I mean, they do amazing, work also, across the channel and everything as well. So
amazing. Yeah.
so just to support them and really, champion these people that were so brave, back in the 19th century up until today, and just keep their legacy alive, really. So yeah.
But you obviously, if you're working with British suppliers as well, Frankie, I think probably, again, without realising it, every day you go to work, you're keeping the artisanal and quality of knitwear and the heritage of it.
It's bringing it back as well, I think, because
and more people are coming back, but then they bulk at the prices, right? So there's still a disconnect. They're like, oh, I'm gonna go elsewhere. So I think it's like an old friend or a surprise hero or the one you didn't know that was going to do so well. Or
so the old friend is the Krask, so that's the one you've got, isn't it? With the big funnel neck. I think that one for me, you can just put it on any time and feel dressed, But it's just very
cloud.
easy.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. New favourite is the one that you're wearing.
Which is the tank. I mean, did not know that you were going to say that, but yes. We just did a piece on this. We got our measuring tape out, everything, to show people how to shop online.
So nice.
Can I just say why I love it though?
Yeah, please
So
do.
when I shop, and I've got a little demo, this is so staged, isn't it? But I want to show you. When I shop, and I do this with clients, so I know that I can throw on a blazer with this top. So it's not, I never feel bulky, but I feel I've got enough warmth in the key area. But then I'm like, I'm not going to wear a blazer every day, so I always do the test of can I wear it with my favourite bomber jacket, which by the way was a wedding present, so it's about 12 years old. And this is a completely different look from the blazer, but same layer, neat colour, goes with everything. Obviously goes with blue jeans, with my denim skirt, with whatever it might be, same top. I could wear a silk shirt underneath because silk glides beautifully under a piece like that, and I love a silk shirt. And then because we're going hopefully into spring, I just want to throw on my custard coat, which I love. But again, I don't want the bulk underneath this because inevitably, if I go to London for the day, I never actually get that cold. You're usually underground bus, maybe a taxi. So it's adapting the piece that you've got your eye on for your actual lifestyle, not just the Instagram influencer you follow.
Absolutely the right length as well, isn't it? It's perfect.
Yes, so that's there, but I would always love a little, my husband hates the